Walking with Indigenous Parents and Guardians, resources for education professionals to support parents and caregivers of Indigenous children and youth. This webinar is intended for caring adults, whether you identify as Indigenous or not, who support Indigenous students in the Ontario school system, including those attending provincial or federal schools. This webinar intends to help you strengthen your connection to Indigenous students and their families, give some context of why Indigenous students may need some additional support or different approaches, and how you might go about creating a culturally safe environment for your Indigenous students. We want to help you strengthen your relationships with Indigenous families, which means supporting Indigenous students by supporting their caregivers. Ani hello, Shpagabi Kwendishnakos, Maingan dem, Wikwam Kong Donjaba, Nishnabe Kwendao. My name is Maxine Pelche. I am of the Three Fires Confederacy, Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. My home is Wikwam unceded territory, which is in the Robinson-Huron Treaty. I am a mom to 4 young men and a grandmother to 7 grandchildren. 6 are members of Wikwam unceded territory, and 1 is a member of Temagami First Nation. My children and grandchildren have attended both federal and provincial schools, giving me firsthand experience with how Indigenous families navigate different education systems. I am a registered social worker with extensive experience in Indigenous mental health, including community mental health, hospital-based work, and school-based support. This experience includes working with families, adults, children, and youth. Walking Together is a collaborative project between First Peoples Wellness Circle and School Mental Health Ontario that aims to provide parents and caregivers and other caring adults with information, tools, and knowledge to benefit the mental well-being and lives of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children and youth and their families. This video is the 5th and final webinar in a series promoting Indigenous student wellness. This webinar focuses on the role of educators and school staff in supporting parents and caregivers of Indigenous children and youth. It offers history and context to deepen understanding, along with simple, practical ideas to help strengthen relationships with Indigenous families. Many people are familiar with the history of Indigenous peoples in Canada. When we consider those experiences and apply them to school settings, we begin to understand why parents and students may show up in different ways. Intergenerational trauma isn't something from the past. It continues to shape the experiences of Indigenous children, families, and communities today. Indigenous students carry the weight of experiences that didn't start with them. Many also navigate systems that were not built with them in mind. When we understand the realities they carry, we can respond with compassion instead of judgment. It is also very important to remember that these same students also carry strengths, teachings, and worldviews that enrich every classroom. Recognizing historical and ongoing trauma isn't about blame, it's about understanding. It helps us create environments that restore safety, dignity, and belonging for Indigenous students and their families. Caring adults, Indigenous or not, play a powerful role in creating safety, belonging, and connection. Supporting families isn't an extra. It is essential to student success and to their mental wellness. Some families may appear hesitant, guarded, or unsure about engaging with the school. This often comes from lived or inherited experiences of harm in education systems. Recognizing this helps us avoid misinterpreting their behavior as disinterest. Instead, we can respond with gentleness, clarity, and reassurance. Indigenous parents carry all the same everyday stressors as any parent: work, finances, childcare, school communication, plus the added burden of historical and intergenerational trauma. When we understand this context, we can better appreciate why some parents may approach schools with caution, mistrust, or heightened concern for their child's safety and support. Every adult in our schools contributes to how Indigenous families experience the environment, from the front office to the classroom to the hallways. You don't need cultural knowledge to make a difference. What families notice most is how they're greeted, how they're spoken to, and whether or not they feel welcomed. Some simple suggestions for making a safe and culturally appropriate environment for Indigenous youth include learning how to pronounce their names correctly or a preferred nickname, use resources created by Indigenous authors, artists, and knowledge carriers, as this can signal inclusion without tokenism. Acknowledge what you don't know. Stay curious. Indigenous parents and/or Indigenous educational partners likely carry the insight and knowledge that can support your understanding. Avoid assuming all Indigenous youth share the same experiences. The creation of a culturally safe classroom is the responsibility for all educators, not just those who are Indigenous. Partner with local communities, building strong relationships with Indigenous parents for guidance, and partnering with existing school supports for Indigenous wellness. Indigenous families want to know that their child is seen for their gifts, not just their challenges. They want communication that is respectful and avoids assumptions about family structure or circumstances. When we lead with strengths and respect, families feel safer to participate and share what they know about their child. Connection doesn't require big gestures. It's built through consistent everyday interactions, a warm greeting, remembering a parent's name correctly, or acknowledging something positive about their child goes a long way. These small moments can signal that the school sees them as partners and an important part of the team supporting their child. Trust grows slowly, especially when families have reasons to be cautious. Following through on what we say, being transparent about decisions, and communicating without shame or blame helps rebuild confidence. Families notice when we show up with kindness and when we take responsibility for creating a safe relationship. When we haven't experienced schools as a safe or supportive place in our own childhood or youth, becoming the parent of school-age children doesn't automatically erase that mistrust. Those early experiences stay with us, and they can shape how we approach teachers, meetings, and the school system. There are many things school staff and educators can do to help parents feel welcome, respected, and included, and to support them in becoming active partners in their child's educational journey. When my husband and I moved our family from our home to a nearby city, I tried to meet with the new teachers of my two youngest sons. I wanted to have a simple conversation about the transition from being surrounded by family, friends, and community to living in a place where they had none of those supports. I hope to share my concerns about how such a big change might affect them and to talk about how we might work together to reduce their stress and mine. Instead, I was met with a lot of resistance. Teachers refused to meet with me, and when I met with the principal, he wasn't willing to support my request or even hear my concerns. My attempts to create an adult village around my sons were not welcomed or supported, which was very different from what I had experienced in my home community of Wikwemkong. I was treated as though my request was unreasonable, rather than as a parent trying to support her children through a major transition. There was no acknowledgement that this was a big change for my sons or that I was a worried mom who was willing to work with the school to help make things smoother for her children. A couple of things that might have made a difference for me included building a relationship, agreeing to meet with me. It didn't feel like an unreasonable request. I was an active parent, and working with me would have created an opportunity for strong homeschool communication. Transparency. No one ever explained to me why my request wasn't allowed. The refusal felt secretive and unwarranted, and it left me without the information I needed to support my sons at school during a major transition. The science of mattering tells us that feeling seen, valued, and needed is a fundamental human need. It strengthens mental health, resilience, and purpose for both children and adults. Mattering is the belief that you are important to others and that your presence and contributions make a difference. It can act as a protective buffer against anxiety, stress, and depression. In Indigenous contexts, this aligns with cultural safety, the experience of being respected, understood, and being free from racism or judgment. Cultural safety is not something institutions can declare. It is something parents and families feel. When we consider cultural safety and mattering, We recognize that Indigenous parents need to feel seen in their identity, history, and strengths, valued for their knowledge, advocacy, and lived experience, safe from racism, judgment, or dismissal, included as partners in their children's learning, respected as the experts on their children and their community. Cultural safety is about how families feel in our presence. It's not about having all the right words. It's about ensuring families don't feel judged, dismissed, or stereotyped. When we address harmful comments, include Indigenous voices meaningfully, and create predictable, calm spaces family can feel more comfortable engaging in. Here are some examples of small, doable steps that make a big difference. A positive message home can shift a family's whole perception of the school. Offering flexible meeting times or asking families how they prefer to communicate shows respect for their realities. These actions can build momentum towards stronger relationships. Indigenous artwork, language, land acknowledgements that feel meaningful, staff who greet families warmly, spaces that feel safe, not intimidating. Why does this matter? Because environment communicates safety before words do. Honor cultural knowledge and family expertise. Connecting families to supports that reflect their culture and community strengthens wellness and belonging. These relationships offer grounding, healing, and cultural safety that schools alone can't provide. Again, the creation of a culturally safe classroom is the responsibility for all educators, and not just those who are Indigenous. Recognize the resilience it takes to show up. Thank you for sharing that. Your advocacy is important. I can see how that past experience would make this feel stressful. Validation builds trust without asking parents to relive harm. Asking, what works well at home? What do you want us to know about your child? How can we support you in supporting them? Frame concerns as shared challenges, not parental shortcomings. This shifts the dynamic from authority to collaboration. Avoid acronyms and technical language. Explain processes, IEPs, assessments, meetings, step by step. Checking in. Does this make sense? Anything you want me to slow down on? Clear communication maintains dignity. If you say you'll call, call. If you'll say you'll check something, check it. If you say you'll advocate, advocate. Reliability is one of the fastest ways to build trust. A reminder that you don't need to be an expert in Indigenous culture to support families well. What matters most is your presence, your consistency, and your willingness to learn. Every positive interaction strengthens a family's sense of hope, belonging, meaning, and purpose, and that directly supports their child. When we think about supporting students, it helps to imagine a growing tree. Every part of that tree needs care, the roots, the trunk, and the canopy. And just like a tree, students grow best in strong, connected communities. There are the deep roots that nourish a student's whole being. Culture, belonging, worldview, hope, identity, and self-worth are not extras. They are the foundation. When these roots are strong, students feel grounded, confident, and connected. When they're disrupted, everything above the surface is affected. Our role is to help strengthen and protect these roots. The trunk represents the student as an individual, their strengths, their lived experiences, their story. Every student stands in a different place, carrying different histories and gifts. When we see the whole student, mind, body, spirit, and community, we can support them in ways that honor who they truly are. The canopy is everything that surrounds and protects the student. Every child needs an adult village, and it's important to consider who is at the table to help support our students. This includes parents and caregivers, extended family, teachers, school staff, peers, elders, knowledge carriers, community partners, and even the broader systems around them. When these supports work together, they create a protective canopy, a network of care that helps students feel safe, supported, and able to grow. When we nourish the roots, honor the individual, and strengthen the support canopies, we grow learning environments where students can thrive, not just academically, but in their identity, their relationships, and their sense of possibility. Supporting Indigenous students begins with supporting their families. Thank you for the work you do, the care you bring, and the effort you make to create safer, more welcoming spaces. These actions ripple out far beyond the classroom and into the well-being of whole families and communities. Miigwech, thank you.